Do you ever feel like if you could just find balance, life would be so much easier? Well, I've got good news and I've got bad news. Balance doesn't exist, but that's actually an amazing thing. Hello and welcome to Becoming Burnout Proof, the podcast for women entrepreneurs who want to increase their income and their impact without burning out. I'm your host, Meg Bingham, marketing strategist and stress management specialist, and today we are busting the myth of balance. If you've been here a while, you probably already know how I feel about the idea of work life balance, but here's a visual for you. My brain tends to compartmentalize things when I approach planning tasks, so I sort of internally color code everything. Actually, I literally do color code things when I'm planning out my week. Maybe your brain works the same way. I sort of have these responsibility buckets. Okay, so I have a home and family bucket. This is keeping the house running, laundry, meals, kids' activities, and making sure we get our quality time together. Homeschool is another bucket all by itself. Then I have my service bucket. This is the part of my brain with a running list of friends and family to check in on and volunteer work that I do for my church. And then I have my business bucket and all the things that come along with building and growing a business. The problem is, trying to carry all of these buckets at once is actually impossible, especially when some are overflowing and others are nearly empty. I picture, I don't know, Mulan, maybe? You know the Disney movie Mulan? I'm a movie nerd, if you didn't know this already. But if I remember correctly, there's a scene where Mulan has buckets balanced on ends of a stick over her shoulders and has to hop from one post to the next. It's part of her military training. So if you're carrying 5 or more buckets with different volumes, they weigh a different amount, hopping from post to post, finding an easygoing balance is going to be impossible. If your idea of finding balance is something that will make life easier, like when I find balance, when I figure out how to balance everything, it'll be smooth sailing. I want you to just picture all of the energy and muscle tension involved with balancing all those buckets of water on a stick across your shoulders, okay? One more drop in a heavy bucket will send you toppling off the post. So, work life balance sounds dreamy, doesn't it? All the roles we are called to fill tucked neatly into boxes and blocked on your calendar. I probably don't have to tell you that it's just not realistic. Don't get me wrong, I love a tidy calendar, but life isn't neat and tidy. Our roles are not equally divided in the time, energy, or mental capacity they require on any given day. The problem with the idea of balance is that it assumes equal time and energy for everything. But there are not clean lines between work and life, and the idea that we should keep those two separate but equal can do much more harm than good. Balance is delicate, it's precarious, and all it takes is a nudge to throw you off. A sick kiddo, a tight deadline, an unexpected project. The truth is, balance is a myth. Sometimes your business is going to require more of your time and energy. Sometimes your family will, and both of those situations are okay. That's why we strive for harmony, where everything we devote time and energy to contributes to the lifestyle we want. Instead of struggling to separately manage all of our roles, we let go of that all or nothing thinking, feeling guilty when work takes priority or guilty when life takes priority. Harmony is about awareness, creating intentional shifts when you need to. It's not about perfection, it's about curating your responsibilities in a way that allows your lifestyle to align with your values. It removes that tension between work and life because everything comes together in harmony. So, how do you define what that work life harmony looks like for you? It looks different for everyone. It depends on your values and your vision for your life, what you even want your life to look like, the stage of life you're in currently. My life and business look vastly different now that my kids are older than it did when they were toddlers, even though it definitely does not mean I have more time to dedicate to my business like I thought it would. It depends on your business model, whether you're service based or product based. Does your current business model align with the vision you have for yourself? For example, and I've talked about this on the show before, but a few years ago, I was doing tons of agency work for multiple different agencies building marketing funnels. While I was pretty dang good at it and making good money, I was still trading my time for dollars, which meant I was working way more hours than I wanted to be and still not hitting my income goals. Plus, I was still working for someone else, and not all those agency owners shared my values. I've also learned since stepping away from agency work that my strengths are people related, not task related. So I've adjusted my business model and my offers accordingly. It depends on your energy levels, strengths, and personality. We tend to overhype time management and downplay the importance of energy management. Understanding the natural ebbs and flows of your energy throughout the month and week, as well as understanding what energizes you and what drains you, are some of the skills I've got in my personal burnout prevention toolkit. When I finally realized that tedious tasks like funnel tech setup drain me, and people related tasks like strategy calls and coaching totally light me up and give me energy, that's when I really started to love and fully embrace my business. If you're trying to picture what harmony even looks like for you, here are a few things to ask yourself. What are your priorities? What matters the most to you right now? This is going to change often. Expect and embrace that shift and give yourself the freedom and flexibility to change when you need to. Boundaries. Where do you need to say no? This can be hard, but learning to say no is a skill that gets easier with practice. Another question to ask yourself relates to flexibility. Do I allow myself flexibility when priorities change? One way to kind of figure out what work life harmony looks like for you is to do an ideal day journaling exercise. There are instructions for this inside of the Balanced Business Blueprint, but essentially, you take some time to visualize your perfect day in great detail. Then you can reverse engineer it, work backwards from the end goal to determine what needs to happen to get you there. Little side note here, I've been in kind of a funk, so I just ran through the Balanced Business Blueprint again for myself, and it's just so good. I'm tooting my own horn here, but it's been an amazing tool to help me refocus and stay motivated in growing my business. I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to take a peek. All right, coming back to this idea of flexibility. In terms of growing a business, especially if you're doing it part-time, giving yourself too much flexibility can actually hold you back. It's sort of on a spectrum, is how I see it. The two ends are too much structure. That can feel rigid and exhausting, or too much flexibility, which might lead to lack of progress and feelings of overwhelm, or you feel like you're behind, right? It's up to you to blend both structure and flexibility so that you keep moving forward in a sustainable way. Again, this is something you discover for yourself through trial and error, but here are a couple of strategies I use and recommend to my clients. First, determine anchor points. All right, this is how we create a good balance of structure and flexibility when it comes to growing our businesses. Determine anchor points. These are your fixed non-negotiables. In my business, I have non-negotiable anchors that look like the co-working sessions I host inside of the Work-Life Harmony Club, a weekly mastermind call, and client calls on my calendar. Outside of my business, my anchor points are tied to my personal health and my family. Also, create buffer zones for yourself. I have scheduled work hours, but I also allow buffer time in case a project runs longer or if something unexpected comes up. Always give yourself a longer deadline than you think you'll need. If the deadlines aren't up to you, you might need to adjust the flow of your week to accommodate work temporarily taking priority over other things. Since we're striving for harmony rather than balance, flow and shift as you need to. Keep those non-negotiables and things will work out. If you find yourself always up against a tight deadline or notice that work is always taking priority over other things that are important to you, if it's affecting your relationships, your mental health, and your sense of happiness, it's time to make some changes. If you feel like the changes that need to happen are out of your control, I'd invite you to reconsider that thought. As my friend Jana says, if you're not changing it, you are choosing it. It can also help to create a realistic weekly routine that allows for both consistency and adaptability. I go with an 80-20 rule. 80% planned, 20% adaptable. All right, quick recap of this episode. Balance is a myth. We should not be striving for work-life balance. It's too finicky, it's too precarious. But harmony is totally possible. That harmony looks different for everyone. Find what works for you. The key is a mix of structure and flexibility that supports your well-being and your vision and your values. I would love for you to take a moment to reflect on what work-life harmony looks like for you. If this episode resonated with you, or if you'd like to take a closer look at the Balanced Business Blueprint, you can take a look at worklifeharmonyclub.com/balance. Be well and be kind, and I will talk to you again soon.